Good morning to you all. Like we agreed in the group, today's class is on homeostasis. You know, several times this body that you are seeing, it is actually complex, and sometimes this human body needs to keep a lot of things in balance and in check. Some of which include the body temperature, apart from the body temperature, including the amount of fluids or water that we are keeping as an individual in this body. So there should be a system in the body that is able to help us, not to say whatever is supposed to be put in the right quantities is maintained. And that process, okay, is referred to as homeostasis. So by definition, we are saying this homeostasis controls the internal environment of the body cells, and we are saying they can only survive when the temperature, the pressure, and the chemical composition of the internal environment remains relatively constant. Apart from that, under normal circumstances, homeostasis is maintained by adaptive mechanisms ranging from the control center in the brain, okay? So the brain that you are seeing here, it has got control centers that are able to control or command different systems in the body, different hormones and different body parts. To chemical substances that we call hormones that are secreted by various organs directly into the bloodstream. Some of the functions controlled by homeostasis we are talking about today include number one, the blood pressure that we have, the body temperature, breathing, as well as the heart rate. For these processes to work well, we know to say there should be something that is controlling them. And that which is controlling them is actually what we are referring to as homeostasis. So in simple terms, you can refer homeostasis to say this is the maintenance of a constant internal environment. Homeostasis is the maintenance of a constant internal environment. Okay. Apart from that, we are saying all individuals require homeostatic mechanisms to regulate the body's internal environment within a normal range. Through this can vary from one individual to the next. Meaning, no matter what type of a human being you are, you actually need what we are calling homeostasis. That should help you to maintain the blood pressure, the amount of chemical substances in the body, and many others. And what this point means is how your temperature is regulated can be different between one individual or the next. You will find that your homeostasis responds to cold temperatures in a different way, while another individual who have homeostasis controlling their body temperature in a different way. And the body's ability to perform many of its functions changes gradually over the years. Therefore, as we age and as we grow older, this process we are calling homeostasis, which we have said is just a system that is helping us to maintain things at different levels in the body, the blood pressure, the temperature, and many others. They actually change as we continue growing. You will find that they will change in terms of how they are responding. How you can respond when someone is trying to fight you today and when you are 45 or 60 years will be very different. In short, as we age, this process we are calling homeostasis tends to change. Okay, homeostasis tends to change. That's what we mean. Now, let's look at what we call control systems. For this homeostasis that we are talking about to be effective, or for the body to be able to maintain a constant body temperature, the nicest blood pressures, there should be what we are calling a control system. And we are saying homeostasis is maintained by control systems, or what we call sensors, which are able to detect and respond to changes in the internal environment. When your water levels are low, these sensors or the control system, they have to send information somewhere telling the body to say, no sir, right now we have low water levels in the body. When the temperature is low, this control system or these sensors are going to detect to say, no, the temperature is low. Can we please tell the boss to increase the body temperature, or rather put up some measures that are going to help in increasing the body temperature. So we are calling that as a control system. Okay, now a control system or these sensors, they are made up of three basic components. Three basic components. And these components are, number one, there is what we call a detector. Number two, a control center. And number three, an effector. For example, a detector under here, okay? This detector, you are going to actually find it maybe on the skin, okay? You can find the detector on the skin here. Apart from the skin, you can find this detector maybe inside the blood vessels, okay? Now, inside the blood vessels, you will find that this detector is actually just detecting the changes that are taking place inside the body, or what we are referring to as the internal environment. Then after they detect the changes, they should send some message, okay, to say, no, boss, the body temperature is low. Who are they telling? The control center. So this control center is normally found in the brain, okay? This control center is normally found in the brain. Apart from that, this brain now will send back feedback to say, no, hello, you blood vessels have been told to say there is a low temperature. Can we constrict and stop losing a lot of heat? Hello, muscles, we know we have low temperature. Please, can you start shivering so that we can produce a lot of heat? So these effectors, they are found all over the body, okay, to bring about the change that we want, okay, to bring about the change that we want. If the BP is low, you find that at least the body is going to actually tell the urinary system, say, no, can you reduce on how much we are urinating so that we reserve and keep some water for the body. Okay, so a control system is what maintains homeostasis. Okay, and this control system contains three basic components, which we are calling a detector, a control center, and an effector. Apart from that, there is what we call feedback mechanism. Okay, there is what we call feedback mechanism. Feedback mechanism, this is what is actually bringing us back to say, okay, the temperature is low, can we increase it? It comes back to normal. The temperature is high, can we reduce it? It goes back to normal. So now, there are two types of feedback mechanisms in homeostasis. There are two types of feedback mechanisms in homeostasis. The first one is what we are calling negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism. So a negative feedback mechanism reinstates a variable back to its original or ideal state. Okay, in short, if the temperature was, for example, we say 32 degrees, okay, 32 degrees. After negative feedback is initiated, it will increase the body temperature to maybe somewhere 36 degrees Celsius, which is the normal body temperature at most on average. Okay. Apart from that, we are saying this negative feedback mechanism, in many cases, stable conditions are maintained by negative feedback mechanisms. In negative feedback, a sensing mechanism, remember the sensor, it's the detector, detects a change in the condition beyond a specific limit. So, okay, now the temperature is low. A control center, often in the brain, will evaluate the change. What do we need? Should we increase or reduce? That is evaluating the change. And it determines the limit within which it should be what? Maintained. And activates a second mechanism, an effector, to correct the condition. Okay. For example, we are saying to help you understand the concept of homeostasis, you will use the example of body temperature. Body temperature is a physiological variable controlled by negative what? Feedback. When the body temperature falls below the preset level, this is detected by specialized temperature sensing nerves, or the nerve endings will detect to say, no, now the temperature is what? It's low. Okay. Now what should happen when the temperature is low? The output from the control center activates the mechanism that raises the body temperature, which is the effector. And these mechanisms include, number one, the shivering itself. Okay, shivering is a very good example of some of the changes that will take place when the body temperature is what? Is low. Okay, another example of how homeostasis or body temperatures are maintained, or how the body is maintained by homeostasis, is in glucose levels. When you eat too much, the absorption of glucose from the GIT increases the amount of glucose in the blood. In response, in blood here, you find that you have what? High levels of glucose. What should happen? Specialized cells in the pancreas, they are going to secrete a certain hormone, which we call what? Insulin. Okay. The sugar levels after you eat, they are going to be high in blood. So what will the body do? It is going to actually call upon the next person to say, boss, Mr. Pancreas, can you give us someone who can come and help us to get this sugar out of the blood stream? Then this insulin is going to circulate through the blood and stimulate or tell the liver, okay, tell the liver and muscles to say, boss, we have a lot of sugar in blood. Please, can you get some of them? Then you find that the sugar levels will go back to near what? Normal. Okay. All that is being maintained because homeostasis is helping us to actually maintain the sugar levels to near normal. Okay. However, another system that we can have, remember, negative feedback, in short, is bringing back all the physiological processes, the body temperature, the blood pressure, and so on, back to normal. However, the other type of feedback mechanism that we are going to find in homeostasis is actually what we call positive feedback mechanism. Positive feedback is the opposite of negative feedback. In negative feedback, it reduces the original effect of the stimulus. In positive feedback, the output enhances the original stimulus. In other words, positive feedback intensifies a condition so that it is driven far beyond normal limits. Okay. For example, if you are frightened, okay, what will positive feedback do? It is going to increase your heart rate. If you are exposed to cold temperatures, positive feedback will lower your body temperature. In short, positive feedback mechanism moves physiological processes away from the normal. You are sick today. You want to clear off microorganisms. For example, you have malaria. The body temperature will start increasing, going up there. What has been activated is positive what? Feedback. It's getting the temperature away from the normal in an attempt that when it's too hot, this microorganism will be uncomfortable and it's going to actually die. But it doesn't die, so the body temperature will keep on increasing. So the mechanism that is taking the physiological processes, temperature, blood pressure, and many others away from the normal is what we call positive feedback mechanism. The one that is bringing physiological processes back to normal. They were high, they come back to normal. They were low, they come back to normal. That is what we are calling negative feedback mechanism. Okay. Besides that, positive feedback is rare. Some examples of positive feedback are childbirth, lactation or breastfeeding, and blood clotting. During childbirth, a hormone called oxytocin is released. This hormone intensifies and speeds up the contractions. They were normal, no contractions, but after this hormone is released, they go away from the normal. They become so many. The increase in contractions causes more oxytocin to be released, and the cycle goes on until the baby is born. Once the baby is born, the release of oxytocin ends, and positive feedback will do what? Will stop. We don't need contractions anymore. So negative feedback will be activated so that it brings back the uterine contractions back to normal. They should not be there anymore. Okay, that is a good example of the two feedbacks that we are going to find. Now, let's look at body fluids and the electrolytes that we have. The body that you are seeing, I remember very well, most of the times we are always preaching to say, no, a human being has a lot of water. The total body fluid in an adult, okay, someone who is an adult on average is about 60% of your body weight. What does this mean? If you are weighing 100 kg as an individual, okay, it simply means of this 100 kg, 60 kg of this is likely to be what? Water. 60% of 100 kg is water. Is 60. Okay, 60 kg. So therefore, if you are weighing 100 kg, we know to say 60 kg is just water. Meaning, if we remove water from your body, you are going to remain with approximately 40 kg. That is how much you are going to remain with. Because majority of it, your body weight, 60% of it is just water. This proportion, however, is a bit higher in young people and in adults below average weight. It is lower in the elderly and in obese individuals in all age groups. In the elderly, the storages for water have lost the capacity to hold as much water as they can. In obese people, someone who is obese, likely it is that they are going to have a lot of fat. So where this water is supposed to sit, it's going to actually be occupied by the fat. Therefore, they are not going to have the exact number compared to a normal adult. Apart from that, water that we are talking about can either be inside the cells or outside the cells. Water can either be inside the cells or outside the what? The cells. If water is inside the cells, it's called intracellular water or intracellular fluid. Outside the cells, it's extracellular water or extracellular what? Fluids. So we are saying extracellular water contributes to about 22% of the body weight. Meaning of the same one that we said 60% is body water, 22% of this water is found outside the cells. Apart from that, we are saying intracellular water is making up about 38% of the body water or of the body weight, meaning the water inside the cells is about 38% of your weight. Okay. Now, when you look at this, this is just a picture that is showing us some of the areas where we are going to find what is this distribution, and much of it will be talked about later. Since we know where this water is being found, let's look at the body fluid compartments. Reason being, we are saying 60% of our weight is water. But when we injure ourselves or you prick yourself with a needle, the first thing that comes out is blood. So where is this water found? That's what we are talking about. So we are saying body fluids, these that we are talking about, they are found in two locations. They are called compartments. Or body fluids are found in compartments, and they are in two locations. The first one is what we are calling the intracellular compartment, and the other one is the extracellular compartment. Okay. The intracellular compartment, also known as the intracellular fluids or ICF, refers to fluids inside the cells. And this fluid inside the cells, on average for an adult, is about 28 liters in volume. Then the other compartment where we are going to find water is called the extracellular compartment. The water that is found there, or the fluids, are known as extracellular fluids, which refers to the fluids found outside the cells, and it's about 14 liters in volume, meaning on average an adult is supposed to have approximately 14 liters outside the cells and 14 liters of fluids inside the cells, which makes up a total of 42 liters. Okay, 42 liters there. Okay, so this is what we mean. This diagram, as you can see, you are able to say, okay, this is a cell, this is a cell here. Apart from that, this is in the bloodstream, okay. Apart from that, this is in between the cells here, in between the cells, okay. In between the cells, it's called interstitial. The fluids found in the blood vessels, normally it's plasma. And the ones that we are finding are inside the cells, we are calling them intracellular fluids. Okay. The diagram that you are seeing is actually helping you to understand what we are calling body fluid compartments, or where the fluids in the body are found. So remember, we said a normal human being has about approximately how many liters on average? An adult, they have approximately 42 liters, okay, which is equal to 60% of your weight. All right, so this total volume, where are we going to find it? It can either be inside the cells, which we are calling what here? Intracellular, or outside the cells, which we are calling what? Extracellular. If it's inside the cells, where it's found is called intracellular fluid compartment. or extracellular fluid compartment if it's outside the cells. How is the volume? How many liters are we going to find inside the cells? We have about how many? 28 liters. And how many liters are we going to find outside the cells? We have about how many? 14 liters. All right. Now, apart from that, this extracellular fluid compartment, the outside of these cells is actually quite a lot. Therefore, we are going to divide it into two. It can either be inside the blood vessels where blood passes in form of what? Plasma. Okay. And the volume from these 14 liters in short extracellular is divided into two: intravascular fluid compartments or extravascular. Intravascular meaning inside the blood vessels, and a good example of that is the water found in plasma or plasma itself. How many liters? 3 liters. Okay, extracellular fluid, 11 liters. When you add this and this, it's going to give you what? 14 liters here. All right. Apart from that, we are also going to divide this extravascular. Where exactly outside the blood vessels? Okay, it can either be interstitial, in between the cells, okay, which is how many liters? 10.5 liters. Then we remain with half a liter, okay, 0.5 liters transcellular, in that is being mostly used for the cells to communicate as well as carry out certain metabolic activities between one cell to the other, as well as signaling. Oh no, my neighbor, do you have this? All right, no, here and there. So it's being used by the cells to carry out a lot of activities. Okay, this is how you're going to remember. So start from the top there. We have intracellular and extracellular. Intracellular, 28 liters. Extracellular, 14 liters. Extracellular divided into two. It can either be inside the blood vessels or outside the blood vessels. Clear? Apart from that, outside the blood vessels, it can either be interstitial or transcellular. What does it mean? Extracellular fluids consist of blood, plasma, lymph, cerebrospinal fluid, and fluids in the interstitial spaces of the body. Interstitial or intercellular fluid is also referred to as tissue fluids. It helps the cells to bath, except the outer layers of the skin. It is the medium through which substances pass from blood to the cells and from the cells to blood. Every human cell is directly dependent upon the composition of the extracellular fluids for its optimum functioning. In short, for the cells to function well, they need to know what is happening outside, or the extracellular fluids. Okay. So we have already talked about the extracellular fluids, which are further divided into number one, interstitial fluids found in the spaces between the cells. They are about 11 liters in volume. Intravascular fluid, made up of blood, plasma, and lymph fluids. It consists about 3 liters in volume. Transcellular fluids, fluids from synovial, peritoneal, pericardial, intraocular spaces, cerebrospinal fluids, pleural spaces, and so on. These are transcellular. Okay. Apart from that, we've talked about 80% of the extracellular fluid surrounds body cells, and because it lies between cells and tissues, it is known as intercellular or interstitial fluid. The remaining 20% of the extracellular fluid constitutes the fluid portion of the blood plasma. The blood plasma is the dynamic component of extracellular fluid, and the plasma exchanges oxygen, nutrients, waste, and other metabolic activities or products with the interstitial fluid as the blood passes through the capillaries of the body. So as blood is passing through the capillaries, some certain wastes are going in the interstitial space, Some products like oxygen, they are coming back to plasma so that it can be carried and attach itself to red blood cells for oxygenation of body tissues. Okay. Slight changes in the extracellular fluids outside the cells can cause a permanent damage in the body, and so the body tries its level best to resist any change through one or more of its many control mechanisms, namely homeostasis. That is how we can link fluids and homeostasis. How? If there are changes outside the cells, this can lead to permanent damage to the body, and the body tries its level best to resist change through one or more of its many control mechanisms, which we are calling homeostasis. Okay. We have talked much about intracellular fluids, and much of the information is exactly what we have actually talked about. Apart from that, the explanations are the same between what we were doing and what you are looking at right now. Now, let's look at fluid balance. Let's look at fluid balance. We are saying the body maintains its constant internal environment by also maintaining the fluid content. It has the responsibility to balance the fluid gain, or what you are taking in form of fluids, and the fluid loss, or the fluids that are leaving your body. And if there is an imbalance between the fluids that you are taking in and the fluids that are coming out, diseases can occur. If there is nothing to check the body to say, okay, what is going on, going in is this much, and what is coming out is this much, there is likely that you are going to have a disease. So now, where does the body get fluids from? Which we are calling fluid gain. The body gains or gets fluids from two main sources. Number one, fluids ingested in form of liquids. What you drink yourself. You are taking a drink, you are taking water in its form, you are taking certain liquids and so on. That is one way the body can have water. The other way water can actually go into our body is through foods, e.g. nshima. You'll find that it's not always that we can prepare nshima without water. Okay, you know to say, okay, sometimes I also need some soup when I'm eating. All right, so you find that there's some component of water in the foods that we eat. Sometimes you are eating cornflakes, okay? Cornflakes you make with milk and so on. So milk is made of what? Water, okay? It has got a component of some liquid in it. All right. Apart from that, how does the body now lose fluids? How does the body lose fluids? We are saying the body loses fluids in two main ways. One, through what we call sensible loss, that you are seeing here, and through insensible loss. Sensible fluid loss refers to the amount of fluids lost that can easily be measured. You can get a jug and measure the amount of urine that you are actually able to see. Okay. Apart from that, we also have what we are calling insensible loss. It refers to the fluid loss that cannot be easily measured. You know to say, okay, I can't measure, I don't even know how this water is leaving my body, but it's going out, you can't see it. Okay, so that is what we call insensible loss. In short, sensible loss can easily be measured. You are losing fluids that you can easily put in a bottle and measure to say I've lost how many liters. Apart from that, These are the ways, okay? These are the ways through which the body can lose water. I can always ask you a question like this to say, state 5 ways through which the body can lose what? Fluids. Number 1 is through the kidneys via urine. How many liters do we lose? About 1,500 liters per day, or 1.5 liters per day. 1,500 mils, sorry. Apart from that, what type of loss is it? Is it sensible or insensible? Of course, it's sensible. Through urine, it's sensible because you are able to measure. You can urinate in a jug. I'll tell the patient to say, can you urinate in this cup? So that you can measure the amount of what? Fluids that you have, this patient has lost. Then we also have water that is lost in feces. We know to say the feces are not dry. Okay, they contain some component of water in them. Worse if someone is having diarrhea. Okay, therefore we can lose water through feces. How many mils do we lose per day? 100 mils. Okay, and what type of loss it is? Yes, I know someone can ask, say, no, but how can we actually know the amount of water that is in fecal matter? Yes, it can easily be extracted and measured. So it's sensible loss. We are losing what we can see. Okay. Apart from that, we also have the water that we can lose through sweat. And most of us, we have seen sweat before. All right. So this sweat, how many mils can we lose per day? 100 mils. That's how much we lose. We sweat when we are moving up and down and so on. And we are able to see it. And sometimes if we are serious, it's very easy for us to tell the individual, say, okay, sit here. We are going to measure how much sweat you have produced today. If we put them somewhere and where we are able to collect the water that they are losing. So therefore, sweat is also sensible. Okay. Now, if this sweat has evaporated from the skin, we didn't see it there and we can't measure it. It's actually insensible loss. Evaporation from the skin is another way an individual can lose water. How many mils do we lose per day? About 500 mils per day. And of course, we can't see what is evaporating in form of gas and we can't measure it. So it's insensible. Now, when you talk about exhalation from the lungs, as you are breathing out, you are normally losing water. Okay, you're normally losing water. Sometimes you spit, sometimes you do what, and so on. So we can lose water from the body or fluids through what? Exhaling from the lungs. How much do we lose per day? 300 mils per day. And what type of loss it is? Can you measure? You say, okay, I've breathed out, therefore I've lost some water. No, therefore it's insensible. We can't measure it and we can't see that. Okay. It is important to note that fluids are also lost through the skin, even when one is not sweating. And the body in general loses a total of 2,500 mils per day when you add all those forms of fluid loss. Therefore, this is also approximately equal to what? 2.5 liters per day. That's how much water someone loses. And this tells us to say that's the reason why at the hospitals we normally encourage people to at least take 2.5 liters per what? Per day there, so that they can avoid having dehydration. If they are losing 2.5 per day, but what they are taking is less than 2.5, you will find that they are likely to have what we call dehydration, low water. Okay, that tells us to say when someone has diarrhea, they are vomiting, meaning they are losing a lot of water compared to mostly what they are taking. Therefore, they are prone to developing what we are calling what? Dehydration there. Body fluids and electrolytes. Body fluids and electrolytes. Electrolytes are minerals in our body and other body fluids that carry an electrical charge. These body fluids, electrolytes they include sodium chloride, the salt that we take, which is dissolved in water. It is called an electrolyte because it dissolves into the component ions that can conduct electricity. Ions are formed when an atom or a molecule acquires either a positive or a negative charge. For example, when we dissolve sodium chloride or salt, okay, we are going to have number one, sodium, okay, with a positive charge, as well as what? Chlorine with a negative charge. So this one becomes an electrolyte, as well as this one becomes an electrolyte. This is sodium here, and this is what? Chlorine. Okay, this one is positive charged, as you can see, and this one is negatively what? Charged. Okay. Now, what is the importance of electrolytes? Number one, they conduct electricity, which is very important for muscles and nerve function. They exert some osmotic pressure that help us to know or keep body fluids in their own compartments. Remember the compartments that we are talking about, the intracellular and extracellular. Without these electrolytes assisting us to create a balance, these fluids cannot stay in their compartments. They function as well as acid-base balances or a buffer to maintain the pH levels in the body. pH levels means potential hydrogen. Okay? And this pH that we are talking about normally is actually in form of an indicator that tells us the acidity as well as alkalinity of a substance. I remember this we did in our chemistry before we came to this university. Now, acid-base balance. How does the body maintain the acids as well as the bases? It is a state of having the right amount of acids and the right amount of bases in blood or other body fluids. Acid-base balance is the state of having the right amount of acids and the right amount of a base in the blood and other body fluids. The number of hydrogen ions present in a solution is a measure of the acidity of the solution, and the maintenance of the normal hydrogen ion concentration within the body is important in maintaining a stable environment. When we are able to maintain how much hydrogen ions the body is having, we know to say, okay, we are able to maintain what? Homeostasis. Let's look at the pH scale. The pH measures the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution, and all body enzyme functions well at a specific pH, either acidic or alkalinity. Now, the time that we were doing our secondary studies, we had a scale that was looking like a number line, like that. Here we had 0, and here we had what? 14. And at the middle here we had 7, which we called the neutral pH. Anything that is below 7, we called it acidic. And anything above 7 was what? Alkaline. Okay. That is what we called it. Now, even here it's the same. This is what we are calling the pH what? The pH scale. Neutral pH, Acidic below 7, alkaline above what? 7. Okay. Now, when you look at the body fluids and their pH, you will find that blood has a pH of 7.35 to 7.45, meaning it's slightly what? Alkaline. Okay, slightly alkaline. Okay. Apart from that, another thing that we can check is saliva. It has the pH of 5.4 to 7.4. Therefore, its pH ranges from being acidic, okay, to alkaline. Acidic to alkaline. Okay. Now, when you look at the gastric juices that are coming from the stomach and so on, they have a pH of 1.5 to 3.5. Therefore, they are very what? Acidic. Okay. Apart from that, when you talk of bile, okay, coming from the bile duct. In chicken, there is that greenish substance that we normally see. Okay, that is a good example of the bile we are talking about here. It ranges from 6 to 8.5, meaning it ranges between acidic to what? Alkaline. We are just using a number to know what is acidic and what is alkaline. Then urine. Its pH ranges from 4.5, especially if we've not taken a lot of fluids, and 8.0 if the urine is too diluted or you have taken a lot of water. Therefore, its pH also ranges from being acidic to what? To alkaline. That's what we mean there, okay? It's very important to know these parameters because some of them, there are certain diseases, certain conditions that are able to change the pH of the body fluids and so on. A lot of diseases can be detected by just checking the pH of certain body fluids. That's the reason why we are talking about this. Therefore, I can ask you the normal ranges. Draw with the aid of a table. State the pH of certain certain body fluids. You start with blood. You draw this diagram: blood, saliva, gastric juice, bowel, even urine there. Okay. Apart from that, we have already talked about the blood having the pH value of 7.35 to 7.45. The pH of blood which is compatible with life is between 7 to 7.8. And if it's anything away from this, meaning some metabolic activities are not going to work. We are saying metabolic activities of body cells produce certain acids and alkalis, which alter the pH levels of tissue, fluids, and blood. To maintain the pH within the normal range, certain substances need to be present in what? In blood to act as buffers. A buffer is something that is regulating, either diluting the alkalinity or diluting the what? The acidity. The body is becoming too acidic, a buffer comes in to make it a bit diluted so that it can become alkaline, or if it's too alkaline, it will be worked on so that it can come back to what? Acidic. All this is a part of homeostasis. We are helping the body to maintain a constant internal what? Environment. Okay. Now, what is a buffer? We are saying the pH of this body is maintained by the balance between acids and bases produced by cells. Bases are substances that accept hydrogen ions. When dissolved in water, they produce an alkaline solution. Buffers are substances such as phosphates, bicarbonates, and certain proteins that maintain the hydrogen ions within normal, or that help us to maintain the pH within normal ranges. What do you call a substance that helps to maintain hydrogen ions within normal range, or a substance that helps to maintain the pH within normal range? It's called a buffer. For example, if sodium hydroxide sodium hydroxide and carbonic acid here are present. Both will dissolve and ionize together to some extent, but they will also react together to form sodium bicarbonate and what? And water. Okay, this one is the same as H2O, this one that you are seeing here. Okay, apart from that, now we can look at when the person has a lot of acids in the body, or when the person has a lot of alkaline substances in the body. Acidosis refers to increased acidity in the blood. Acidosis refers to a condition in which there is an increased acidity in the blood and other body tissues. It occurs when the pH of blood falls below 7.35. Remember, the normal is 7.35 to 7.45. So we are going to say this is acidosis. Anything that will result into the pH of this blood falling below what? 7.35. And all the reserves for alkaline buffers that should help in bringing back the pH to normal levels are done. Nothing will be there to bring back the pH to normal. Okay. When the reverse situation occurs and the pH rises above 7.45, the increased alkaline uses up all the acids. In short, you don't have any acids in the body. You will find that the condition is referred to as what? Alkalosis. Okay. Now let's look at hormonal control of fluids and electrolytes. We are saying all human cells have regulatory mechanisms for fluids and electrolytes, like you have seen. Cells carefully monitor all important aspects of their external environment and internal environments. The internal environment we are talking about inside the body. Okay. And the action may entail sending instructions to various tissues and organ cells, directing them to increase or decrease their activities. Okay. So we are saying this transmission and integration of information is performed primarily by the nervous and hormonal systems. The two systems therefore contribute to the survival organisms. The nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord and so on, as well as the hormones that this body produces. They are the ones that actually bring about survival of an organism by controlling the activities of various body components, so that any change that is about to happen in the body's internal environment automatically initiates a chain of events. For example, sodium is the most common positively charged ion outside the cell, and potassium is the most common positive electrolyte or ion inside the cells. If we have too many sodium, mainly excreted in urine and sweat, the amount of sodium excreted is regulated by the hormone aldosterone, secreted by the adrenal cortex in the kidneys mostly. So in short, the take-home point is all these processes that we are talking about, they are supposed to be regulated by the body in one way or the other through the use of hormones as well as response from the nervous system. Now let's look at hormonal control. This we are going to look at it in details when we actually start doing the endocrine system. So this hormonal control of fluids, okay, as well as electrolytes is achieved by the secretion of hormones from various endocrine glands. For example, we have the adrenal glands that help us in sodium reabsorption. We have the parathyroid hormone that helps us to regulate calcium in the body. Some are coming from the pituitary gland. For example, the pituitary gland is giving us antidiuretic hormone that helps us in maintaining the level or amount of fluids. Okay, so I just want you to understand that certain hormones are helping us to maintain homeostasis by number one, controlling ions, as well as controlling certain fluids that the body has. Okay. So this is the end of the first unit. The next time we are meeting, we'll actually be looking at, I think, the muscle tissue. So thank you so much. I believe we will get something. And please, if you have any questions, feel free to interact. And the phone number is always there for you. We are always in the same group for WhatsApp together. So the number, I'll put it again. Okay, 0972 754647. Okay.